Hey everyone, I'm Melissa from Knitting the Stash, and this is episode 76 in the series. It's wonderful to see you guys here today. It is Sunday afternoon here in Urbana, Illinois, where I'm coming to you from. And I just want to say first and foremost, I hope everyone is safe and well in the pandemic. If you're not, I hope you have some good care, and big thank you to everyone who's out there working on the front lines, everyone who's staying home, just sending a lot of goodwill out, goodwill and good wishes out into the world. So as many of you know, if you're coming back, of course you know this is a podcast about knitting, lots of pattern modification, DIY, weird inventions, all that kind of fun stuff, a little bit of spinning thrown in there. And I'm coming to you from Urbana, Illinois, where I'm a professor at the university there. And we're just wrapping up our now online semester. Things have gone pretty well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the summer and some writing and some planning and all that kind of good stuff. If you're looking for me elsewhere, you can find me as Knitting the Stash just about everywhere on Instagram and here obviously on YouTube, on Ravelry, and on the blog, which is knittingthestash.wordpress.com. And what else do I usually tell you? I tell you that it's a Sunday. It's pretty outside. It was a little cold this morning. I might tell you about our garden that we've been working on. Spencer is doing a pandemic garden this year, and he's actually going to come on this episode and talk about making in the pandemic, so we'll talk about lots of different kinds of making. I could tell you that we're getting some little chicks in the next week or so, and they're going to be really fun to raise and add to our flock. I think right now we have 12 chickens out there laying eggs for us. What else do I tell you? I tell you what I'm going to talk about. So today, like I said, Spencer's going to come on. We're going to talk about making in the pandemic. I also have an update for you about my Afterthought sweater from made out of Sweet Georgia yarns, which I'll talk about what I'm doing and what still needs to be done on this one. I finished Spencer's Chimney sweater, so I'll give you a little FO update on that one. And I have the winners of the giveaway from Ranching Tradition Fiber. Cami Noyes donated tons of yarn for you guys. And last episode, I knit up a sweater and showed you how beautiful her Tobacco Root Valley yarn line is. And then there's tons of yarn for the giveaway, so I'll announce those winners. And I thought it might be kind of fun to give you guys a little giveaway from my own stash. So we'll talk about that at the end, but there's going to be some good stuff in this episode, as always. If you're coming back, it's lovely to see you, and if you are new here, welcome. We do have a Ravelry group. We have a couple cowls going on. We have lots of good community over on Ravelry, and if you want to join us, please do introduce yourself, jump in on the threads, and I'd love to hear what you're making and what you're up to, especially right now if you're on lockdown. All right, let's jump in with the segment from Spencer, and then we'll come back and talk about some works in progress and NFO. So we have Spencer on the cast today, and we thought we would talk a little bit about making in the pandemic because we've been on lockdown since March 20-something.
Seems like a long time.
And we got another month ahead of us until June 1st so far. So we thought we'd talk about what we're doing to kind of stay sane. And I mean, I guess we should preface this by saying I think we're a little different. Like I'm kind of fine because I'm a homebody and an introvert, and I'm very happy to just be like home, you know, like working my day job online and like knitting and going outside and taking walks.
In some ways it's not that different on a daily basis for Melissa.
We were joking around. I saw a little meme go around early on that was like, when your day-to-day life starts being called quarantine. And I was kind of like, that's me. But I think you experienced it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I was working out in the community, not quite full time, but a lot, most days. And then now I'm at home all the time. But I kind of prefer that because we have, I've got like a big shop here and the farm and everything. So
and you're doing the YouTube stuff and the garden.
Yeah.
And everything,
so my income didn't like completely get deleted, but 90% of it did.
Pretty much.
But I can just sponge off Melissa, and it's all good.
Yeah, those university professors. One of my students in class, like it was awesome. He said at one point, well, you could be rich like a university professor, and I was like, nah. But we get by.
So what I've really been noticing, and I was going to ask you in the yarn world, I've been noticing this term quarantine project. So a lot of, I'm like a member of like way too many online groups about like pallet building and woodworking and welding and stuff like that. And there are a lot of people doing these quarantine projects or stay-at-home projects or shelter-in-place projects. And what they are is, you've got a stretch of time and you decide, I'm finally going to build that deck, or I'm going to build like a piece of furniture, and then you feature it if you're on Instagram or some social media, MySpace or whatever. You feature it as like your quarantine project and you show it to everyone, and then there's kind of this celebration or whatever in the comments, unless there's haters. But kind of like, hey, good job, that's awesome. It's cool that you had the time to do this.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not like the pro level people who turn stuff out all the time, but it's more like people who are, like they're hobbyists, but they have a little more time at home, I guess.
Yeah.
During the quarantine. Do you guys have that stuff?
I'm trying to think. I mean, among the yarn people, I've seen a lot of people. We have a quarantine thread. We have a making in the pandemic thread on the Ravelry group, and I've seen a lot of people kind of like. There have been a bunch of responses from like on the spectrum, from like, I've lost all my mojo. This is so stressful. Right. I can't even, like, knitting's not even helping me, to, wow, I've gone through all of my basket of works in progress that I never thought I would touch again and finish them all. I'm down to like...
You've done a lot, yeah.
I mean, I don't usually have a lot of whips just laying around.
But you're not running out of yarn, is what I'm saying.
No. And that's definitely not a problem.
This thing could go on a long time before
What's that stash beyond life expectancy?
Yeah,
like
even in a pandemic.
I think I'm beyond like 3 or 4 life expectancies. So that's why the giveaway at the end, thus the giveaway.
So people have been burning through their stuff though.
Well, I think they've not been burning through it, but I think they've been kind of working their way through it systematically, kind of just like, and especially picking up some of the stuff if they don't have money for a new yarn, or they can't get shipped, like they can't get their yarn shipped to them or something like that, just kind of like picking up all those projects that they didn't think they'd finish or want to work on, and just being like, new life, this is great, I can finish this right now.
It's been a big time of DIY. Like, it's the time when public officials are getting out and saying, you guys need to make your own masks.
Did you bring your masks in?
No.
Oh, Spencer was trying to make us masks, and he's the only one who can sew in this house. So.
I made these masks that kind of look like an XL adult diaper that kind of like goes on your face.
He came in with one on, and it like on my face, it would like actually cover my entire face. It
wasn't quite size, right?
And
I think if I keep doing it, they would get better, but the first 2 were pretty rough.
Yeah, he said, "Can I wear this to the Home Depot?" Because he goes sometimes at 6 a.m. to get some stuff for outside projects.
I think it'll work.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, 6 a.m. at the Home Depot. That's totally."
I think it'll work out.
No, they were good.
Most of the guys at the Home Depot just do this.
With like their sweatshirt or whatever.
Yeah, or like if they have one of those neck gaiter things.
Yeah. But I was amazed that he like went in there with the sewing machine. Like, I can hand sew, and I might still try to hand sew some masks, but he can machine sew.
Yeah, but not this level of sewing. You gotta be pretty good.
It's actually, yeah.
I'm more of a rough seamstress.
But I know a bunch of people who have really devoted themselves, like in their time, to making masks, not only for like their friends. And I mentioned Nancy of the Round Rabbit podcast was doing that. She took donations and bought all kinds of the surgical fabric kind of stuff, and she's been making masks for anybody who needs them, like all through donations, like mailing them out across the country, including to my mom. And then I know a couple of other makers who are like I know a seamstress down south in the Carolinas who's she was building up a huge business, just herself in her house, making these baby ensembles and selling them locally and stuff. And then she just totally switched over to making masks, and she's made like hundreds of masks. Cool. And she's just leaving them on her porch. She's mailing them to people. She's just fulfilling all these, like, everybody needs them. Yeah. And, there are these people out there just making them, and it's kind of amazing. And just support them if you can. I know a couple of mask makers, Lorna Lancaster of the Cocoon Tree, who I featured on here before, she's got some masks up in her shop. She's in the UK. And then Christina Rowell of Aloha Knits, she is making masks, and she's making different sizes, small, medium, and large, so depending on your face, which we learned is kind of important. She's doing some work like that. You can pick them up in both their shops, and they're relatively, they're reasonably priced, and you're supporting a maker who's actually out there just trying to do the work. So
I mentioned that I've noticed a lot of people building, things around the house, like decks and shelves and things like that. But 2 things that people are making in the kind of woodworking world, or carpentry world. One, people making plexiglass screens for retail shops.
Yeah.
And
I like how you did that. You were like, the plexiglass.
I should have brought one in.
Oh, man.
Okay, next time we're going to have a divider here.
That's right. We're going to fully quarantine.
And then the other thing I thought was really cool is it's kind of like a tiny library, but it's like a tiny food bank.
Yeah.
And it's just a really simple construction, little mini, kind of like a shelf with a roof that you could put outside your house, your establishment. I've seen a couple on greenways, so they're out in kind of like a public space. And one I know about is even sponsored by Lowe's, so it was kind of, it was a little more publicly acceptable or whatever.
Yeah.
And just full of canned foods and that kind of thing. So those are cool. They're kind of like crafts for the pandemic instead of just crafting in the pandemic.
Yeah. And that's cool. The food bank stuff has really been pretty wild to see, and the need is really out there. So if you have the ability to get food to your neighbors, to the food bank, to donate, money or time, like it's huge right now. So whatever you can do for each other to help each other.
But we haven't seen any knitted face masks.
I've seen a few.
Really?
I've seen a few. They're
tight?
They're not they're more like intended to be like in solidarity as opposed to.
So they're not filtration.
No, and none of the homemade masks are actually about like they're not going to necessarily protect you. It's about kind of like showing solidarity with the community, and like if you are sick, you can help, stop spreading the droplets and things. But masks they're not foolproof unless you're wearing the N95. But they are about, community solidarity and kind of like respect for one another, and that seems to be important.
It allows you to like not brush your teeth and go out in public.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about
any weird facial expressions of somebody.
Right, nobody can
no
even
clue.
know.
Yeah.
But we've been talking a lot about spaces after the pandemic and like what's going to happen to them, and like we were talking about just the other day, like how do you eat in a restaurant with a mask on, right? I mean, like there's some weird.
We were sort of talking today about some public spaces maybe just becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
Or maybe revising them. Like any place where people congregate. Yeah. Like universities.
University campuses.
And my whole job, the reason my job kind of dried up is that it was all about going into people's houses. And, the phone basically just stopped ringing. And
we kind of talked about it, and we were like, we can survive on one salary. Yeah. Let's keep you out of the houses.
Yeah, it gets sponged off for like forever. But
okay, but what else the other thing he's been doing in the pandemic is like we've got a garden that's how big? Like square footage?
It's a big garden.
It's a big garden.
I'm trying to feed us this year more than we have in the past off the garden. In the previous years, the garden's always been kind of supplemental. Mm-hmm. And this year I'm just trying to see how much I can do. And not only to feed us, but to feed, gardeners always have excess. Yeah. So to see how much excess we can have for others.
We actually just found that the food bank in town is part of I can't remember what it's called. It was like the Apple Harvest or something.
She'll put it right here on the screen.
Yeah. But there's a network of... it's like a group that's trying to connect food banks with farmers and gardeners.
It's kind of it's like garden sourced, but then the food distribution hubs aren't like big food banks.
No, like
more localized ones.
So like our food bank will accept food from gardeners. So if we get an excess of tomatoes or cucumbers or whatever it is, we can set up a time to drop off our garden produce to them. And there's also a soup kitchen in town, and I know Beth in my guild works there, and so she's kind of our connection there if we have extra eggs or if we have extra produce. So there are local ways that you can
to get the food out there.
Use your making to help others, which is
it does seem like food distribution networks have been disturbed already, and I'm just guessing there'll be more of that.
Yeah. So you've been making in the pandemic by making like
I've been
gardens.
Just been like chilling out. I haven't been totally chilling out and reading comic books.
You'd like to believe that.
But I did read a couple comic books about global pandemics. And they were pretty good.
Yeah, we've been watching like Contagion, Outbreak, Pandemic, like all of the old films.
We watched one pandemic-based film. What was the name of that one? Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, that was Outbreak.
And it was supposed to be like the worst pandemic, and it wasn't even close.
It was like one little town in California.
You couldn't even touch what we got going on.
Yeah, it was amazing. But the whole military came in. It was just. These movies they're kind of like, it's okay to laugh, I think, when you're watching them, if you need a little like moment of like,
ridiculous.
Because they're ridiculous, but they're also like absolutely terrifying, and so I think it's a good response is sometimes just to like laughter. Because
Can I say something about my sweater?
Yeah, oh yeah, we gotta talk about your sweater.
Okay, so did you talk about this on the cast already?
I'll talk about it a little bit, but since it's the same as Zach's sweater.
This isn't gonna get a lot of hype because it's a redo from Melissa.
But I did make this.
She did this already. It's kind of like a faux hoodie thing. It's got like it's like a hoodie in the front, but a party in the back. Like that kind of a sweater. And it's got the two-tone thing going on.
Yeah.
But it's really comfy. It's like I think the first sweater. Well, not exactly. It's on the top of the list of the sweaters on comfort that she's knitted for me. This one you throw it on and it's just kind of like you're wearing a sweatshirt.
Yeah, because the Denali's a little bit heavy and hot.
And the hemp one is super comfy, but it's also a little bit like chainmail.
Yeah.
It just has a little bit of a... I'm a critic. I should be
I've only knit you like 3 sweaters so far.
That's not... That's a lot of sweaters.
So, well, it's only 3.
I asked Melissa how many sweaters she had the other day.
Oh.
It was a lot.
Well, I had to delete the sweaters I'd given away or done as like
we were talking double digit sweaters.
Yeah, it was 30 something, but
that's a lot of sweaters.
But you only got 3. You need more.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Anyway, this one's great. It's simple. You know, it doesn't have a lot of elaborate cables and stuff like that. But that's kind of.
But it's kind of really wearable.
Virtue of it.
Yeah, and this is the Chimney sweater. One thing I was curious about when I made this sweater, that he hates it when I touch him when he's wearing sweaters. He just hates it. Like if I asked him
like an object, you know?
If I asked him to stand here while I was like, let me talk about the sweater. Right. Wow, you're gonna be like the model for the sweater. That's good. So one thing about this sweater in
like
the
a human mannequin.
larger size. In the larger size is that I wasn't quite...
The larger size, the triple XL.
Well, no, I made Zach the like teenage size, not like the full like grown man size, you know? And I think that in the sizing up of the garment, I feel like the number of stitches that are... the depth of the yoke is a little bit off on this sweater if you get into the upper, like the actually men's sizes.
You scaled it up, but it scaled up this stuff too.
Yeah, a little bit too much, I think.
For my massive shoulder muscles?
Well, you do have massive shoulder muscles.
Not really,
yes,
but...
That's true. But I think, like, if you look at the depth of this yoke from here to here, it's just a little, like, it would be nicer if there's a little bit of extra stuff going on there. I know that's your armpit. And I know guys like some ease, and some women like ease.
It makes me feel buff.
It ended up looking okay on him, but as I was knitting it, I had a moment of crisis, like when I was doing the sleeves, and I was like, there are too many stitches. Like, it was too big of an armhole, and so I had to do some extra weird reductions.
It wasn't as big as the armhole on the sweater I knitted.
No.
That was identical to the torso. The sweater I knitted, it had the torso, which was at 250 stitches.
Whatever happened to the sweater pillow?
And then the dogs ate it. And then the sleeve was exactly the same.
I like that sweater pillow.
It was brilliant. It was almost like made for Siamese twins.
It was. You could have just fit, a couple bodies.
2 humans in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, great sweater. I'm digging it.
Yeah, so it's working out. I'm gonna stop touching him because he hates it so much. But I made this partially during the pandemic.
Oh, she's been knitting up a storm.
Yeah. I finished this one. So once I finish the Afterthought sweater that I'm gonna talk about a little bit later, I think I don't have any sweaters on my needles, and I'll need to, get some more sweaters over my needles.
Or help me out in the garden.
But I also have 2 sweaters I haven't even shown you guys because they were tests for Albina, and I can't show them to you yet. So that's a lot of sweaters. If you want a sneak peek, they're over on my Ravelry page.
Thanks for having me on the podcast. It's good to see you knitter folks. It's always nice to see you on Instagram, where you are my main connection. And hang in there. It's kind of a crazy time.
Yeah, we're thinking of you guys. Let us know if there's stuff we can do for you. If you just need like a pep up, you can send us a message and we'll send you your message back.
Definitely.
Okay, thanks, Spencer.
Thank you.
Bye. So it's always nice to have Spencer on the cast. I hope you guys enjoyed that little segment. I know we got a little off topic, but hey, it's conversation. It moves, it grooves, it does different things. So a couple things about his sweater that I didn't get to mention because he hates me touching him in the sweater so badly, is that we kind of experimented with a couple of different things for the cuffs and for the hem. And my son's version of the Chimney sweater they just have the ribbed bottoms for both the cuffs and the hem. But with Spencer, he was like a little more sweatshirt. He wanted it to be a rolled hem. He thought it might be a little more casual looking. So we tried that, and I knit it extra long so that even when it rolled up just in stockinette, it would be long enough for him. But it just didn't end up looking finished. I didn't feel good about it as a sweater maker. And then for the cuffs, we actually tried a turned hem, kind of like the one that's up here on the top of the sweater for the bottom of the cuffs for the sleeves. And it ended up, because these sleeves, as I mentioned, were so wide, they had so many stitches because the yoke was a little bit too deep, and I had to do some fancy footwork with the reductions. The turned hem ended up making the sleeve balloon out. It just looked a little bit like a bell at the end. It just didn't suit him very well. So I reduced a little bit extra, and then I ended up with this cuff, and it actually works perfectly well. So I stuck with the original on this one, at least for the hem and the cuffs, and I quite like it. If you want all the details about this sweater, you can go over to the Ravelry project page, but basically I did a lot of the same moves that I did with my son Zach's version of the Chimney sweater, because I used the same yarn in a different color that I had dyed myself from the local Shetland wool, and the same yarn, this is the Naturally Nazareth that I get from Hip Strings and Weaving and Beauty, 2 stores that carry it. It only costs about $8 or $9 a skein, so it's really nice and affordable, and they have tons and tons of lovely colors. This is a kind of darker gray than my son's sweater. So all of the notes for both sweaters, you can probably find them over on my son's Chimney sweater page and my Ravelry project page kind of stuff. So that's Chimney, and 2 of them down. I kind of want to knit one for myself. We'll see if that actually happens. So turning over to some works in progress. As I mentioned, I only have 1 sweater on the needles right now, and it is this one. This is the Afterthought cardigan. Well, I'm calling it the Afterthought cardigan. You won't find it on Ravelry because it began its life as a cowl. See, the thing is, I'm an ambassador for Sweet Georgia yarns this year, which means awesome things. Like I get to see their pattern releases just a little bit early, and I get to play around with their yarns, kind of show them off to you guys a little bit. And Jen Starhunter put out her first pattern with Sweet Georgia yarns just this past, I think it was December. It was for the holiday collection. And it's a beautiful cowl that I think you'd be able to see if I hold up the bottom of this sweater. And as you guys might know, if you've been watching for a while, I like to do lots of kind of sometimes extreme modifications and inventive things with sweaters. So I was knitting this cowl, which is a beautiful textured slip stitch kind of faded thing, knit out of the Sweet Georgia Party of 5 yarn pack in Tanzanite. And I was knitting the cowl. I didn't do a gauge swatch because I don't tend to do gauge swatches for things like cowls. And my cowl came out just a little bit bigger than it was supposed to, and I thought to myself, is it big enough to become a sweater? Because I love the fabric. Jen Starhunter has this great part of her pattern where she talks about how to do the fade, how to manage it, no matter what yarn you're using, and how to manage like the color transitions and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna try. So I drew it up, and as you guys saw, in that last cast when I talk about it, I used another Party of 5 pack, and finished up the body, did the neckline, 3-needle bind off for the shoulders. And the plan was always to do little sleeve caps for the sleeves, for the shoulders, and then knit the sleeves from the top down and kind of see what happened. And one of the problems, as you guys know, is that I ran out of most of the colors. Like I wasn't gonna have enough from the Party of 5 pack to do the sleeves, both sleeves. So I had to kind of improvise, and I happened to have 2 other skeins of yarn from Sweet Georgia, because I was gonna make a shawl out of them, and here they are. Beautiful, just jewel tones. You guys know I love the jewel tones. So these are Trinket and Lupine from Sweet Georgia, and I had these 2, and I thought they might go well with the colors that were already in the Party of 5 pack. So I decided to go ahead and try to knit up the sleeves in those colors. And here's the result of the first sleeve. And I think you'll agree that these colors really work well with the rest of the sweater. They're a little bit different, but because of the garter stitch, I think they kind of blend in pretty well. Now on the sleeves, I decided not to do the slip stitch patterning because it was just gonna be too difficult. I'm gonna be reducing. I wanted to keep it kind of simple. And it was already going to be a tricky thing to do the garter stitch striped short rows that I needed for the top of the shoulder cap here, the sleeve caps. And I'm not perfectly satisfied with the way the sleeves caps came out. You can see on either side that there's a little bit of a line where I'm doing my my German short rows. On this side, there's a little bit of a line where I'm switching I changed up my method on this side just to see, and there's a little bit of a line where I'm switching my colors, which you can see right there if you really look hard. And I think both of those are gonna relax a little bit when I wash the thing. but we'll see. I might want to work on a tutorial for how to, like, how to do striped garter stitch sleeve caps. And if you know of a tutorial on that, let me know, because I'd like to see it. So that's what I did with the sleeve caps and with the sleeves. And when it came to the bottom of the sleeve, I decided, I was looking at the hem of the sweater, which was the hem of the cowl. And because it was the hem of a cowl, it didn't have any ribbing or anything special or any fancy stitches. It just has my long tail cast on. So I wanted the sleeve to end with on a simple kind of sweet little note. So I just did an applied I-cord on the bottom of the sleeve, and I quite like the way that it came out so far. I don't often show you guys sweaters in progress, and I'm not sure why. I should do that more often, because maybe it gives you a little more insight into like the work I'm doing and how I'm planning and doing things on the go. So with this one, for example, you can see that with the applied I-cord, I haven't done the finishing work yet to work in all the ends and tie that together and do the kind of seamstressing that needs to be done there. And I think it's cool to see stuff in progress and see the strings all hanging off stuff. So I'll try to show you guys my works in progress a little bit more. So what's left is to finish the other sleeve. I'll do it in a la this sleeve. But then I'm trying to decide what to do with the fronts. And I had originally planned on a kind of thick button band garter going in this direction. Not sure how that's gonna work out. And I thought maybe doing like a shawl collar, but I've already got the neckline, so I've got to kind of play around, do some playing with this sweater to see what actually is gonna work for the long run, what I actually want it to be. And that's really fun because very often, last time I talked about intuitive knitting versus pattern knitting and kind of how you might find yourself between the two eventually as you, or you might find yourself on one side or the other depending on how you kind of entered the knitting world. And in this case, I'm having a lot of fun just kind of playing around, and it's the Afterthought sweater. It is becoming before your very eyes and my eyes. So I'll keep you guys up to date on the progress, and I'm hoping that in the next couple weeks I actually will be finished with it, because it is my now my only pandemic sweater project. So we'll see if I can just finish it up in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. Okay, so the last segment of the podcast is, first off, I want to give a shout out to Cami Noise of Ranching Tradition Fiber, who sent along some beautiful yarn that I worked with for the Meltdown sweater that I made. And she sent along so much yarn for the giveaway, and you guys were really pretty enthusiastic about it. She sent these beautiful colors. This is her Tobacco Root Valley line of yarns. And Cami was actually just live. There's been a kind of digital fiber festival going on over in Facebook. If anybody's interested, I think all the live videos are still up, and all of the merchants and indie ranchers and farmers and yarn dyers and all that are still taking orders and everything from the virtual festival that's been going on. I think it was Friday and Saturday, it might be going on today. And Cami Noise was one of the folks who was doing a virtual session for that digital fiber festival. So these are the other colorways that were up for the giveaway. So I have two winners, and the winners were chosen by random number, and they are Sarah Terry and Brenda Vietti. And you've both been notified via YouTube comment, so please just get in touch with me at knittingthestash@gmail.com, and I will send you off your prizes, which is pretty exciting. And I would love to see what you make with this Tobacco Root Valley yarn from Cami Noise of Ranching Tradition Fiber. Huge thank you to Cami for sending along so much yarn to play with and give away to you guys. That was really awesome, Cami, thank you. And I guess the last thing is I'm gonna sponsor a giveaway. So I know a lot of you are making in the pandemic. Maybe some of you are running out of yarn or you're running out of inspiration. And what I wanna offer are 3 prizes. Whoa. The first 2 will be stash yarns. So basically I'd like for you to leave me a little note about your wish list. Like if you could have a skein of any yarn, like, or fiber, if you want a bump of fiber, I've got some stuff to give away. Let me know what you'd like. Fiber, yarn, and then your favorite colors, let's just say. And I will pick 2 of you at random and do a little stash diving and send you something in the mail. Now that has to be in the United States because I can't do international shipping. I know. But for all you international folks, here's the good thing. I want to do a third can't even do my fingers anymore, a third giveaway, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. So you pick the pattern and you let me know which one it is and which one you want to knit, and I will gift it to you, right? If I select you, those are the 3 prizes. The pattern one can go anywhere in the world, and the other 2 will have to be domestic in the United States, but 3 giveaways. Leave me a comment below, and I will happily gift you guys some stuff in the pandemic so you can keep up your own making. Yay. I know I've had a couple things gifted to me during this time. Hip Strings was doing a really sweet little giveaway where they asked for your favorite color and weight of yarn, and they'll send a little thing in the mail, and I got a little set of like a little fade set of minis from them, and I love them. I like I said, I order my yarn from them for sweaters often because they have a great selection of that Naturally Nazareth yarn. So yeah, other people are doing this. I want to get in on it, and I want to send you guys some prizes. So details are below. Leave me a comment with your fiber yarn or pattern and favorite color or favorite pattern, and you will be entered to win one of those prizes. Yeah. In the meantime, until I see you guys again, I hope you're doing well. I hope you stay safe and well. And again, love messaging with you, so let me know how you're doing, and get over to Ravelry and get in on that thread on making in the pandemic, and maybe make some new friends, meet some new people from around the world. All right, guys, take care, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.